Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight. I'm Tian Wei from Beijing. Now turning to the latest on the EU's top job prospect. Almost 2 weeks ago, EU leaders finally agreed on the presidents of the EU's main institutions. These decisions reflect a host of considerations, such as political affiliation, geography, and even gender, of course. Now it is time for the European Parliament to vote. Will the nominations get approved? Let's find out.
The second plenary session of the European Parliament will be held from July 15th to the 18th. The European Parliament is going to vote on the nominations for the main leaders of the European Union. Germany's female defense minister, Ursula von der Leyen, was nominated as the president of the EU's powerful executive arm, the European Commission. Another lady, current head of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, was nominated as the president of the European Central Bank. Spanish Foreign Minister Josep Borrell was proposed as the EU Foreign Policy Chief. These three key posts were nominated on July 2nd after the EU leaders' 3 days of deliberation. On the same day, they also elected Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel as the president of the European Council, which together with the European Parliament are the legislatures of the European Union. On July 3rd, Italian socialist David Maria Sassoli was elected president of the European Parliament. The focus of this Parliament meeting is voting for the post of president of the European Commission. If confirmed by the European Parliament, Ms. von der Leyen would be the first woman to take on the Commission presidency, with responsibilities including proposing new EU laws, enforcing the bloc's rules, and handling trade deals.
So who are likely to be the leaders of the European Union? In Brussels, Fraser Cameron, a senior advisor at the European Policy Center in Brussels. In Rome, we invite Valerio Bordonaro, who is a political expert and also advisor to the former Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta. And in Beijing, finally not least, Cui Hongjian, director of the Department of European Studies, China Institute of International Studies. Gentlemen, welcome to our program. Mr. Cameron, of course, you've experienced this moment many times. This time, the names are already there. Likely to have final approval?
I think so. It's a package deal, as you said in the introduction, and I think the parties recognise that if they did not approve the deal tomorrow, it would be opening a Pandora's box. They would have to sort of reassess the whole situation, and that's not what is required at the time. So I think it will be relatively tight. I don't think she will get more than 400 votes, but I think she will be approved tomorrow.
Italian, German, and also French are certainly represented as the names indicated. Mr. Bordonaro, though, some of those names are actually coming out, not necessarily through procedures recognized by all parties, but they seem to be also winning hearts. What do you mean, and how do you see this phenomenon, particularly regarding the European Commission?
Well, you see, it's, as usual, a package that is negotiated among the people in the Council, and the results of the election is not taken so much into consideration. There's no representative of the Greens in the majority, but yes, it's again a negotiation on that. And yeah, the names are part of the deal, and was supposed to be also, you see, the Spanish socialists are represented too.
Yeah.
It's a big negotiation. Unfortunately, it's a council negotiation.
Mr. Cui, of course, we all understand whether the European Council and the European Parliament, what kind of role it will exactly play on the final decisions of the European Union and some of the most important political capitals. It's always a big question mark. However, these leaders are likely to lead the European Union through the next few years of possibly very turbulent times, as we're seeing geopolitics changing so much, and the fate of EU is on the horizon. Mr. Cui, is there some common characteristics you're reading among these names?
Indeed, we can find out this very, very special, change of the European institution, especially for its leadership. Also, in the past, obviously, the bigger powers, major member states, they prefer to stay on the back stage. But this time, it's very special. You can name that France, Germany, Italy, they try to stand on the so-called center of the stage. So I think that shows maybe a requirement from European integration. Now it's time for these major member states and the big powers to play a more active role. So of course, maybe there will be some other maybe by effect, because once there are more, domination or more power by major member states, perhaps there will be some more maybe negative response from these small and the medium and the middle size, member states.
Interesting. But Mr. Cameron, something are very important right now. That is, we see some differences in opinions between France and Germany. We also been seeing German Chancellor Angela Merkel, obviously believed to be a very strong leader inside the European Union and certainly on the European continent, have been suffering from some kinds of unnamed health problems, to say the least, over the past 1 year or two. And also we've seen the Brexit tendency coming from the UK. Some of the economies in Europe are not necessarily doing very well at this point. So how constructively do you think these names will collectively play? Is that a big question mark to you, Mr. Cameron?
Well, I think it's a good balance that the European Council have brought together. The problems that you have mentioned have been around for some time, and it's up to the new team to try and inject sort of new energy into the EU, try and connect better with citizens, try and meet some of the
Cameron,
demands,
the question is really, what about them?
Change.
What qualities about them that you believe they're likely to do a better job than the previous ones, besides gender balance?
Well, Ursula von der Leyen has been a member of Angela Merkel's cabinet for 15 years. She's sat in at all the top positions. She has traveled the world. She has a huge international network. Josep Borrell is a very experienced Spanish foreign minister, previous president of the European Parliament. Christine Lagarde needs no explanation. And Charles Michel has obviously been a very good chairman in terms of Belgian politics, and we saw the skills that Herman van Rompuy brought to the first president of the European Council. So, as I say, I think this team together has the necessary skills to ensure that they can steer Europe through all the difficult items that you mentioned.
Mr. Baldonado, it seems that there has to be very strong European leadership because the relevancy of Europe is really on the line right now. How much do you think they will be able to encourage and stimulate the kind of energy within the European Union despite of the difficulties that I mentioned earlier in the earlier question?
Well, I think they're going to do a good job. As was said previously, the team is well balanced and experienced to do this, and the fact that France and Germany are really backing this 5 members of the top jobs, it gives very, very interesting signals for the future. The point is to understand what is going to happen in the Council with the Eastern European countries. They're not represented at all, and they are more and more Eurosceptics. So that's going to be the biggest question mark on the result of this new Commission and European top-level jobs.
Mr. Cameron, there is always some kinds of sequence, possibly, as they say, when the European leaders are coming into the office after the election and this time of the approval. How long a period of time would you like to give to them about their agenda, about their tendency of policies, about their way of bringing consensus within the European Union, and about their choices or choice to be made about transatlantic relationship with China, and also how they're likely to take the approach about the European Union issues relating particularly Brexit?
Well, they have 3 months before they take office, so during that time they'll be meeting with political groups in the Parliament, meeting with member states, and they will be setting out their agenda. I'm sure there'll be a number of meetings together, and they will be putting forward their own platform. It won't be radically different from what we have just now, but it will be tackling, I think, some of the big issues like climate change, like economic growth, like migration. These will continue to be priorities, but I think the balanced team will perhaps bring new skills, new leadership qualities that we haven't seen before.
Mr. Cui, of course, this year is a big year. We all know the reform of the WTO. It is also being heatedly discussed, and of course, the European Union has a big role over there on this topic and beyond. What about the geopolitical issues? What about the trade issues? What about the financial issues? And what about the economies inside Europe? These are all questions very relevant, I guess. The leaders have to answer, even though they're not necessarily representing specifically every government, but certainly the European Union.
Yes, as we understand it now, European Union is facing a very complicated environment, not only outside, also inside.
Sure.
I think now, yeah, I agree with the guests from Europe mentioned that yes, it's maybe consequences of balance. But I am doubting about how about this efficiency from this kind of balance of power. Because it's easy for us to neglect those names, von der Leyen or some other. We always remember the name of the country, I mean Germany and France. But of course, so far, I think that now the most important thing is this
efficiency.
This new, yes, efficiency, and another very big priority for this new team is they should keep the stability and also this consistency of policy. For example, for China-EU relations, we have a lot of, joint statement and common grounds for the, former administration. But now, how about this? Yes, there's some change from Mr. Ronk to maybe Madam von der Leyen, but I don't hope that there will be some difference from Luxembourg and Germany.
Well, we'll ask our European expert to see what they think about that. Mr. Baldonado. For national government, particularly political parties, there's always big changes. But the European Union, as Mr. Cameron earlier illustrated, there should not be that much a change, but maybe in style. But who knows at the time of political change? What do you say, Mr. Baldonado? Efficiency issue, sustainable issue?
Well, I'd say that if the leadership, and with leadership I mean the Parliament, the Commission, the Council, and the Member States, they all acknowledge that the world is shifting from geopolitics to connectivity, and the main things are trade, investment, joint programs about sustainability, the joint research programs. In a multipolar scenario, all the issues are going to be solved. The point is that how much national issues are going to be taken into consideration instead of the European and the world issues.
What do you think then, since you asked that fascinating question?
Is it to me?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think that we have several countries in which the European stands are not taken into consideration at all, or at least not enough. Italy is one of those at the moment. But I think that the European leadership is going to be strong enough to push a little bit the Eurosceptic countries and the Eurosceptic governments to focus on this new line. But it's very important. It's not, about names or countries. It's more about changing the point of view about the world. I think the new leadership could do that.
Interesting to talk about Italy, Mr. Cameron. We understand that Italy is one of the very first G7 countries to work with China to develop the third place market and also on the Belt and Road Initiative. Now, that has been receiving mixed reactions coming from its European Union counterparts. But the question really is, should the European Unions all come to consensus, or whether different capitals should have their own choices, particularly at a time of great change? Consensus is one thing, individual choices is another thing. Efficiency vis-a-vis innovative approach, these are all questions resolving involving the EU for a long, long time, Mr. Cameron?
Well, the answer is it's going to be a bit of both. It always has been, always will be. There are, of course, elements of a common policy towards China, which all the member states signed up to just a few months ago, talking about China being a strategic partner, but also in some areas a systemic rival. So that was something everyone agreed on. At the same time, it's well known that all the 27 have their own relations with China, and as you said, Italy signed up a MOU on the Belt and Road, with other major countries did not. So I don't think that's going to change, but I think overall there's going to be a recognition that a more united European approach is necessary to deal not only with China, but with the United States and with Russia as well.
I see. Mr. Cui, final words from you, very briefly, please.
I think now for European Union, it's time to be familiar with some new reality situation, not only in China and also in European countries. I think that the European Union is also one of the consequences of diversity, combination of diversity. So how could make a balance between the combination, cooperation, coordination, and the diversity? I think it also will reflect its policy towards China.
Very interesting discussion, gentlemen. Thank you so much for all your input. I'm sure when the leadership coming into the office, there's more to discuss about. For now, thank you so much. Fraser Cameron, Valerio Bordanaro, and Cui Hongjian. Really appreciate it.